Following the Red Puncher arc, we had the worst rated episode in the series.
I know, right? It's almost as if when you write an idiot plot, that people decide to stop watching your show.
And yeah, the 20s in the episode count is probably where the series reached its worst, but oddly enough, I don't think the worst rated episode is actually bad. Do I wait to that statement? It was written by Inoue, who you all know by now I do not like.
It's mostly because it's another character-driven episode focused once more around Juri, as the group take a day off to go to the beach, with the guys being lecherous.
Because Inoue script. Okay, yeah, I see what you did there, Inoue.
Hysteria sees the pair looking at girly mags, becoming irritated despite them reading them for the articles.
Can this marriage be saved?
And ranting a lesson to her son about it being what's inside that counts.
And that is why his future wife is a sexy gynoid, and you have big, jutting boobs despite being a robot.
This incites her to send down Bara clothes.
Clothes are not machines. Why not Bara washer or Bara sewing machine? Wait, right, I forgot sewing machine is slang in the not-too-distant future.
Still, it's an effective monster, using clothing beams to erase clothing from existence. But what it actually does is cause clothing to become control suits, catching all of the guys, but when it goes after the girls...
My headcanon for this is Bacchus programmed the definition of beauty in all his minions to be his wife. Also, I have no right to complain.
Thus, the girls have to fight off their indoctrinated teammates armed with nothing more than their bathing suits. Momo, of course, once more shows herself as completely useless, while Juri goes Rambo on their asses, and does very well for herself against all of them, once we're buying into the wily characterization seen before. The episode is padded out by Juri encountering and then needing to save an unrelated brat that at no point in the episode needed to be part of it.
Like 95% of the child characters in this series.
Because that was the state of the show that this script was rewritten to include one that Inoue was obviously resistant to. But eventually Juri's pinned by the clothing transformation beam, only to reveal her ultimate technique! Nah, she's wearing another suit underneath the one she tore off. This distraction of 50% sexy allows her to break Kid's antenna, which frees the others. And with the entire Core 5 now leveled up, it's time for a new team finishing attack! Hooray!
Good break from the suck, but the next one continues the series' fail train.
For Momo, having headed home for summer vacation...
You are a military officer on call 24/7 and an adult at that. You don't get summer vacation. Days off? Understandable. But you just had one. Taking a leave of absence for a festival that's likely to be a attack target of your enemies? Not so much.
Regardless, she uncovers out of nowhere Barakaka, who's disguising himself as Napoleon?
How would Baranoia know, or even care who Napoleon was?
Anyways, he has been brainwashing local brats into loving Baranoia.
Haven't we done this plot? We've done this plot.
What? What? It drags Momo into a pocket dimension, which she easily escapes, meaning it's a pointless diversion, only for Kaka's thralls to then attack her. Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen, defeated by children. Apparently this is supposed to be a male villain quick change episode,
while also referencing Cutie Honey like I did a moment ago with the reveal of all this idiot's outfits.
As Kaka keeps changing outfits, making Momo once more a dumbass in distress, and plans to boil her alive!
こんな立派な口ひげつけて勲章までぶら下げてあんたには心ってものはないのかい
It's a robot!
年寄りや子供弱いもんをいたわる
People have always had, eh? Alrighty then. Allow me to read off Japan's list of war crimes.
This actually defeats the monster. I'm not kidding. That's all that happens once you cut out these insufferable diversions and bad humor, too. Episode 25 introduces the unlucky Shinta family as completely unnecessary comic relief.
And yes, that is Satoru Saito, who 2 years later would play the excellent mentor character Eikichi Kubota in Mega Ranger. You have no idea how much this pains me, as the Shinta family, they only appear in bad episodes!
I mean, I seriously don't get this. To once again echo my critique from Zyuranger earlier this year, why, in a show that is about a team of superheroes, is it so hard to actually focus on and develop those title characters? This, and the idiotic technophile Kotaro Hana, who is effectively a Kuroda without any dignity, that would also be a recurring character starting from now, are the fault of Shoujo Uehara, an example of the bad levity Toho was banking on to fix its ratings problem, only for their inclusion to turn off more viewers and make things worse. Shown as a bara monster eats and drinks its body weight in booze.
Again, robots! What would a robot need with booze? Hey, that's justified as Bender runs on alcohol. Baranoia's bots have internal batteries. Why are you not calling for help?
Well, after pointless comic relief, such being Hana getting blasted by barfed up mold, the Ohranger finally show up and vacuum the mold off the man. What? With this thing KO'd, obviously they're going to blast it with their most powerful technique! Gunpowder!
You've got to be fucking kidding me.
Well, obviously this explosive weaker than those they already know don't work at all will destroy this comatose robot. No need to use technology they have that's actually effective to beat it. It of course escapes and actually gets on its job, covering every edible foodstuff in Japan with its special brand of rainbow mold that will make all food spoiled.
Except, of course, for non-perishable foodstuffs and mushrooms which will amalgamate this mold into itself to grow into super fungi, as would of course be seen here.
And keep in mind, this only happens because the Ohranger were fucking imbeciles with their disposal of the machine beast! Meaning the entirety of the episode is, once more, an idiot plot.
The sad thing is the underlying plan, poison their food and cut off supplies to your enemy, is not asinine. It's once more the trappings of the presentation in its entirety that is the problem here.
As it's not comedic, it's groan-worthy. Especially with how it plays total reset button with everyone involved for its punchlines.
I hate this episode and everyone in it.
They ask the youngest of the Shintas instead of the fucking adults for answers to how they KO'd it, and get absolutely nothing useful because he's an imbecile. They decide plan B is to...
That's it! I'm out!
The other thing of note this episode is this is where they introduced the Ore bazooka. Out of literal nowhere. They don't even try to justify its sudden existence, of how it uses for ammunition hyper storage crystals, which Miura made, forgetting entirely that it's already been established that Miura can't duplicate the technology found in the storage crystals.
It may not seem like it in recaps form, but trying to sit through this one, it's painful. I think it's the worst episode of the show, though if you like Car Ranger, it might be more up your alley, since this was par for Car Ranger.
Fortunately, things improve as we hit the next piece of the story arc, as in space, no one can hear you play pyramids in ancient Egypt.
My god, Daniel Jackson was right. They were landing pads!
This ship reacts with the Chouriki generator, an error readout showing a symbol Miura remembers as belonging to the ancient civilization's hero, Riki.
So wait, a hero that uses superpower power has a name that translates as power. Genius!
And he relates this tale of Riki using pictures of Egyptian hieroglyphs, which makes me once more reiterate my question of what was wrong with having this civilization existing in the last several thousand years. With Riki, however, is a young girl called Doreen. She is a Doreen, who their lore states acted as a messenger of the gods.
It's almost as if the entirety of this super ancient race shouldn't be human, as they predate humanity's capability to even evolve.
The reality, of course, is Doreen is an alien, one assigned to Earth as a guardian.
And she is bar none the worst character in the series. I'm serious. They say she has this godly wisdom, a great power and connection to the world that requires her to be protected to the point Riki's appointed himself as her guardian since, that's obviously so much more important than actually fighting the threat you didn't defeat right the first time.
But in actuality, Doreen's a naive, bullheaded nitwit of a girl that every time makes the situation she gets involved in far worse by her presence or involvement.
It's like how Momo keeps being the dumbass in distress anytime an episode has the slightest bit of focus on her. They only have one thing they do with her, and that's make the lives of those around her more difficult by endangering herself and others.
The King Ranger arc is, however, where most of the series' lore finally gets dropped in explaining the origins of the conflict with Baranoia that I've already touched upon, how they were pets who rebelled and caused the robot apocalypse of the ancient civilization. But thanks to Riki, both sides' numbers were so diminished it's taken forever for the conflict to begin again. And Riki's return has Bacchus's gears all in a tiff, as this one is personal. For he deploys the most horrible thing he could against the exploring the modern world Riki. Clowns.
Kill them! Kill them now!
Actually, what he does is contact a special branch of his forces under Machine Beast Tamer Karis, so her more feral machine beasts can deal with him. While that happens, the Ohranger have a stalled fight with Riki, as he's distrustful of the tech-heavy modern age, though he eventually decides they're alright after they fight off some paratroopers together. Of course, to make life more difficult for everyone, simply by standing around outdoors when Riki told her not to, Doreen gets captured and used as a hostage.
Clearly, this is why Riki is her protector, because she'd nominate herself for a Darwin Award if she were left to her own devices.
As such, it's time to raising your power to gold. Behold, King Ranger power! And the first black, technically, Sixth Ranger. Cue debut ass kicking! And when it goes giant, Riki gets to show off his personal mech, King Pyramider! Now, witness the power of ancient Egypt, the super ancient nameless race.
Wait, Riki's part of that civilization. He can give them a name now. But that would assume there was thought put into this.
Still, this isn't the end of the plot, as this is all part of Karis's trap, revealing her monster form.
Because Japan. And this is probably why this monster wasn't adapted.
And whisks Riki away to a terrible Pauly Shore movie, while Bacchus deploys a new monster that begins kidnapping young girls at night. And this is shown in a way that is totally unrealistic, as there's no way a schoolgirl would be out in the dead of night alone like this.
And this is a plot hole filled if you assume this was a role meant for a young woman that they stupidly gave to a child. Bad toy! Bad!
The problem being the monster resembles Riki's King Ranger form, making the Ohranger think Bacchus turned him into it, or it's using his power, which is overheard by Doreen, who, instead of refuting them, or showing that wisdom of hers, or checking for a way to free Riki if it is him, or do anything useful at all, runs out of the base and into danger. So why is Baranoia nabbing these kids? Well, Boldon wants to fuse them with animals to make them his pets.
You have issues, kid. Issues.
Now behold, the true origins of Juland. To skip past the birth of a new fetish in Japan's young, Paku, the companion lizard of the Blatts, finds Riki abandoned in a cave on Earth somehow.
Should he be held amongst the Baranoia forces on the moon? Wait, no. If he got free, he'd smash everything he could. How about a prison satellite? Something more than dumping him someplace where he could easily escape.
Well, yeah, the machine doppelganger is a fake, and thanks to the assistance of their pet, and not the alien girl with alien powers, Riki comes to the other's assistance, and it being revealed that Miura's designing of the machines based on the super ancient technology allows them enough mutual design elements that they can combine these suckers, revealing King Pyramiter carrier formation and battle formation. The former with everyone riding on the pyramid, the other having them ride inside of the pyramid to supercharge its normal energy attack into an energy wave. It's admittedly a bit of a stretch to justify it, but odds are the internal parts of Pyramiter were meant to be slightly reconfigurable. Still, while Riki will be around, his first duty is to keep Doreen from being a danger to herself and others. Thus, he takes her off to explore this new world.
Which is how this time they keep the Sixth Ohranger irrelevant to the story in favor of keeping the focus on the core 5 to not overshadow them. The show has mostly been neglecting anyways in their development since kid plots.
Case in point, the next episode where Juri and Shohei are making food for the next random brat of the series they don't even bother to introduce their random connection to, thus not even bothering to justify it with the greater power thematic of the series, only to note his abnormally perfect test scores, making Juri want to investigate this unusual occurrence. Why? They completely fail to explain that. It, however, leads them to an after-school dancing activity, being run by Kotaro Hena on the behalf of Baranoia, due to the nitwit's obsession with robots, which use the event to pin people with subdermal control devices, which are obviously the only reason they keep coming back.
I mean, come on! Just listen to that music! It's like it was composed by Gnome Keneal. How could you possibly want to listen to that crap without mind control?
Juri's bit by Bara Tarantula, which injects her with one of the transmitters that hijacks her body, but in turn is shown to be very easy to remove, as it doesn't actually connect to anything that would hijack her body.
マシン銃の動きに合わせてタランテラを踊らされてしまったわ。
タランテラは南イタリアの民族舞踊だ。毒グモタランチェラに刺された時、その毒を消すために熱狂的に踊ったのでその名がついたとも言われている。
Yeah, about that. That's a myth. The Italian tarantella dance they're citing is a courtship dance, whereas Tarantula's dancing music originates in Greece, and dancing to cure poison was an old wives' tale related to people using physical activity to sweat out poisons, even though physical activity spreads poison faster through the body, and thus is one that hasn't been used since the Middle Ages because it causes a serious case of dead.
Well, no matter. Now that they know of the plot, they can shut it down.
有名私立中への進学諦めろっていうの
I think I'm going to employ violence.
Are you seriously saying your child's education is more important than their safety and life?
じゃあマサオの成績が落ちたら責任取ってくれるわけ
Would you please stop writing everyone as if they were imbeciles?
Because it's not like Baranoia's scheme is actually doing anything for these brats. As they show, they facilitate them cheating through these hijacking sensors transmitting the answers in person. But that then begs the fucking question of, what was the point? Why was this a Baranoia plot? This doesn't further their world conquest schemes in any, and I do mean any way, as the means by which they implant these hijack devices results in most of these thralls being children that are entirely worthless to them, as opposed to, say, military officials or politicians, which could possibly subvert counter-Baranoia forces, or even get them the UAO base's location for a frontal assault. Them controlling kids? Every time it appears, it's absolutely worthless to them.
Clearly there's only one way the royal family let this plot fly. And that is if they were sleeping on the job.
I was kidding! Actually, this is the next episode's plot with Baraguska. And while it looks terrible, this actually does show itself to be a better plan. As due to the hypnotic sound wave it transmits, it can render anyone or thing unconscious, permitting Baranoia to literally conquer the world while everyone is sleeping on the job. And they would have gotten away with it too, if it weren't for that meddling Riki and his stupid lizard! Since they and Doreen have been in stasis for so long, their body chemistry is all screwed up, providing a resistance to the sleep wave, which disables it long enough for the Ohranger to destroy it. Provisionally. For instead of collecting the scrap so Baranoia can't use it against them, Kotaro Henna finds it, takes the broken body, and salvages it so he can rebuild it!
Meaning yes, this jackass's obsession with robots has made him an active danger to himself and others. You do not come back from that!
And worse, it permits Acha the chance to upgrade the sleeper robot further to widen and supercharge its sleeper beam, to the point it even affects Riki as well. But not to worry, the puppet lizard is the day's salvation. Somehow. Because he should have the same resistance Riki has, but that one is being overpowered now. So there's no real justifiable way now they should have been able to win. Ugh. As I said back in the movie review, Faucet Chuck from that event is rebuilt as Barra Fawcett, and is tasked with poisoning Tokyo's water supply undercover with a chemical agent that suppresses the hunger response.
And how is this poisoning the water supply?
Well, actually, it acts as the exact opposite, making this a Rita's Pita plot, in that all the drinkers of it become ravenous while also suppressing their higher brain functions.
今じゃ7サイズよ。
これはバラノイアの陰謀です。使用を続けると危険です。
平気よ。なんか証拠あるの？持ってない。
ちょっと。
Wait, no, sorry. That's just once more how badly they're writing human fucking beings, with all the adults being imbeciles in comparison to the children the episode chooses to unjustly glorify.
Worse, they did this plot already. I already talked about it in this very video. Sure, before they were poisoning the food supply instead of causing it to be depleted by ingestion, but the same root reason for doing so, cause a food shortage to weaken the effectiveness of their enemies, has the exact same motivation behind it. The Ohranger are of course oblivious to all this, despite Barra Fawcett revealing itself every time it installs a faucet that generates this toxin, eventually uncovering the plot and needing to route it out of the city's water system, after it reveals it can turn into an invincible Gel form, not unlike Black RX Biorider, though obviously far weaker since they defeat this liquid form by freezing Fawcett solid. In episode 32, Momo has recurring nightmares, which occur once a year, featuring an old friend named Mayumi, who disappeared 11 years prior to the series. But she notices a new detail in the dream, a cloaked man. By telling the others, investigation reveals her friend going missing was not an isolated incident, and a few girls have gone missing per year for a long time. This gives Momo appropriate leave to look into this further on her own, reconnecting with her friend's mother, and determined to get to the truth.
Which actually requires a few logical leaps to explain, but I get the idea the story was rewritten at some point.
As it's revealed, the one behind this is a machine beast, bar a nightmare. But as established, the Baranoia have only been back and sent their first scouting party 2 years ago, And while yes, it's revealed Baranoia is a rogue machine beast no longer allied with Baranoia, it's not established how it escaped execution and came to Earth, which the Baranoia hadn't rediscovered yet. And it being here 11 years isn't actually natural dialogue revealed about it, only a tangential assumption a viewer has to make to explain away how it could kidnap Mayumi over a decade before the Baranoia even came back to this planet.
Why are you so bad with time, Noboru Sugimura?
Nor does it explain its ability to trap people in dreams, which is how Mayumi's managed to reach out to Momo for help. Or how Baranoia has kept its victims in stasis, by leaving them on hanging platforms with absolutely no means of keeping them living past a week, let alone years.
It's why I think this may have been rewritten, as the story works better if Mayumi and the other victims of past years had died from what Baranoia had done to them, and using Nightmare's own dream world torture, where they're in essence still trapped as digital ghosts, to reach out to someone that could help them, while Nightmare is keeping that dream world active to torture his newest victim. As otherwise, the once-a-year nature of these recurring dreams is curious in why Momo hasn't figured this all out before.
Now, I don't have much of an issue with the dream thing itself from how it's presented. It's clearly an artificial recreation of reality in virtual form that Nightmare's remote jacking its victims into via proximity, as is showcased by how Momo is made into one of its victims.
And thus buys into Ohranger's greater power theme of bridging connections, as the rest of the team connecting to her allows them in turn into the dream world, alongside Momo's connection to Mayumi, allowing her to learn of this horror in the first place.
But I believe it's more of a virtual recreation than a true dream state, as everything in the dream world matches up perfectly with the real world, and that's not really how dreams work. But it's the key to this, as it whisking Momo down into its lair allows them in the real world to discover the same location and rescue all its victims.
Though this is probably Momo's best spotlight episode, as it's the only one that focuses on her that doesn't make her out to be in some way incompetent. While she's still made a damsel, there's a good reason for that. It explores her character and reason why she chose a military career by Mayumi's loss affecting her, and she's a pivotal key in figuring out the monster's MO and base of operations alongside receiving vindication for letting her friend down all those years ago. I might have some issues timeline and setting-wise, as they certainly could have elaborated those details better, but it's overall an enjoyable and darker episode.
Next, a volcanic eruption preludes a Baranoia plot. Several of the old machine beasts recreated, and made part of a new armoring process Bacchus first tested with Barra Fawcett. The key to it being magma that superheats their bodies and permits this new armor coating to really soak into them.
Yeah, we'll swing back to that. Short version? Toei wanted a new chief villain.
Thus, Super Bara Drill begins an attack on Tokyo to show you shit just got real. Miura, however, prevents them from deploying, as thanks to Bacchus gloating about this armoring process, it won't matter if they can beat the individual machines if they just keep coming.
Or you could, buy time to find the base without risking people's lives by deploying and then having your giant mechs defeated, which would in turn lure Bacchus into a false sense of security and hinder more immediate retaliation while he's celebrating.
Instead, they instigate Operation Trojan Horse, with the Ohranger going around assuring the people who have ended up injured and possibly with dead family from their inaction, and also having their lives threatened to be murdered by paratroopers they let have free reign on the city.
Sorry, I'm just irritated at Soda's take on the war plot being people injured and possibly killed from hero inaction. At least in the early episodes, it was made clear that people dying was because it was beyond anyone's ability to do anything to prevent such calamities at that time.
Anyways, they let slip of a gift from heaven which will lead to the Baranoia's fall, which of course Bacchus plans to prevent with this knowledge. Only the devices, 5 stone and crystal shaped objects, are the Trojan horses. For as they're stolen and brought to the base... oh hell yes! Well, out of universe, this was the first major mandated Arsenal edition, Story-wise, this does make sense, as Miura preparing these in the face of Baranoia's continually improving machine beasts, with each of them able to face these new super machines on their own and defeat them, after they blow up the base and destroy the super arming process. The rest of the episode is a long, iconic scene of fights showing off the capabilities of the Blocker Robos, far outstripping that of the Ohranger Robo even individually. It's a fantastically shot and directed battle, using an eclectic mix of techniques and environments as they clean house. However, in the rubble of the base, Bacchus still lives. And, in a moment of Deus Ex Machina, you expect nothing less in the Sugimura era, is revived with even more power by being hit by an asteroid. I'm not even kidding. Worse, that asteroid contains a space sword of an unknown material that comes the straight hell out of nowhere.
And there's no reason it needed to come out of nowhere. As will be seen when they redid this plot in Zio, they did explain where this sword came from to give their counterpart to Bacchus this power-up. Hell, make it the reason why he became the Emperor, as it gave him his great power. Or to make it a Chouriki artifact which would play into their origins. Or something he found in ancient times that allowed him to survive his original exodus. You had options! And you chose to be lazy!
As this was not written by Sugimura or Inoue, Yuji is of course made into the butt monkey, deploying recklessly and against the orders that are given once more for absolutely no reason to prevent them from helping people, as is their mission statement. So Yuji can have his ass kicked in his solo Blocker Robo, all while down below him, useless child character Mikio is given a subplot of seeing a melted slab of metal that has to be the space metal the space sword is made out of. But frankly, if the space metal melted enough to splinter off as a puddle on re-entry, then they shouldn't have much of an issue with it at all, as all real metals all do the same thing.
Thus making unnecessary what comes next. The Ohranger training to cut metal.
Even putting aside how that's a high-level sword technique that can't possibly be learned in a day, Miura says they can't combine the Blocker Robo into O-Blocker to fight Bacchus off until they complete this training, despite metal cutting with a sword?
1. That technique is not going to translate to their piloting of O-Blocker in any way, shape, or form. Thus is worthless to them to even learn, as this is not something that involves learning how to move, as it was with Red Puncher.
2. The spirituality element Miura stresses they will learn from this training, as it will require them to unite their hearts? Yeah, no. At best, it will make them in tune with nature, as it will broaden their ability to sense things around them, which is not something they learn in a day. Nor will it help them in communing with each other, as this training doesn't deepen their mutual bonds, which Miura says is required to form O-Blocker.
And I hate to reference Car Ranger, since I don't like that show, but they were doing this better with VRV Master's inane training to get that team more in sync with each other. And even there, the punchline of that training they needed to go through to form BRV Robo?
赤いスイッチを押せ。
赤いスイッチを押せ？答えになってないぞ、おい。
Yes. The punchline to the joke is their training was actually worthless to piloting their new giant robots. Now, what do you think they were mocking in that specific moment?
3. Mysticism and spirituality are not an element or theme of the series. Every time it shows up, it is exceedingly out of place and proves itself to ultimately be irrelevant past the instance of use. And this is no different, which makes the training even more pointless. And of course, 4. The melted space metal slag actually makes more sense as a plot-relevant item, but is actually discarded and lost/rendered irrelevant in favor of a lesson for Yuji that, frankly, despite the episode saying he does learn, actually does not. Meaning that entire subplot was a waste of time.
In other words, every single appearance of Mikio in this series.
They just didn't care. We rest our case. What do you think, sirs?
Even though it would make more sense and tie into the Blocker Robo's introduction if they were rushed out for the super armored machine beast threat and their combination sequence wasn't ready to test, as in testing they found the process tore the connection ports apart, requiring a stronger metal to reinforce the joints that this space metal slag could have played into, or even backwards engineering of Bacchus's arming process to actually allow them to achieve it. That more explained why Miura prevented them from combining the mechs and justify this story diversion, which could also potentially show how far they've come, or their will to see Bacchus's end in this final confrontation. But instead, all of that just goes to a complete waste. Thus, having somehow learned some lesson that allows them to combine mechs that have that as a automated standard feature, they face Bacchus with... And sure enough, this robot completely curb stomps Bacchus with pretty much no effort at all. It's almost as if they didn't even need the training to be able to face Bacchus effectively. I mean, it's not like Miura was having them trained to create a lightsaber at all. That's all the robot.
But yeah, that's the end of Bacchus' wrath. Except for the time they rebuilt him.
In Retaliation, Bulldot plans to get revenge for his father's death by launching nuclear missiles at the Earth, which Blocker in turn wipes out with little to no efforts, bar one. The last one returns to Baranoia's moon base and reveals itself to be... Nobuyuki Hiyama?
What the hell is the King of Braves, the Descendant of Fianna, the Knight of the Azure Sky, the Conqueror of the Dragon of the Darkness Flame, and the Hero of the Triforce of Courage doing in this show?
I joke, but probably since I'm a fan of him, I get great pleasure from hearing Nobuyuki Hiyama voicing our new interim big bad, Bomber the Great, and proves to be a highlight in the next few episodes. He straps Bulldot to another missile and sends him careening to Earth, only for the Ohranger to save Bulldot at the cost of the missile hitting a family and pinning their daughter to the back seat.
Our heroes, ladies and gentlemen.
They deal with Bomber as he gives his backstory as another machine beast banished from Baranoia as he tried to seize power from Bacchus. And now that Bacchus is gone, nothing can stop him! Though to make this entire situation worse, they assign Momo, to disarm it while ordering Juri to gently remove the car with the missile from the city so it won't accidentally blow up and kill people while they're fighting.
Why are you not doing your jobs?
In fact, holding it in their hands like that, it put them in more danger as it makes them a more visible target than had Juri just driven the car away from the battle. As if her Blocker Robo drops it, the bomb would go off! And oh look, she drops it! No matter if they catch it or not, the G-forces from that drop while the bomb is still armed would be enough to go off!
Ah. Oh.
I'm sorry if this seems to be too repetitious in my reviews lately, but why does Hirohisa Soda keep writing people as morons? The next episode is not any better, with Bomber then deploying Machine Beast Bara Skunk, who goes around eating trash which is broken down into a noxious gas released from its tail. That the episode keeps insisting is a fart.
Excuse me, do you mind not farting while I'm saving the world?
The problem is, it's a skunk. The stench they spray on you isn't flatulence, it's a defensive gland against predators, which in this machine is being recreated from chemicals that are still not being released from its butt.
No, they're treating it as such because toilet humor to get kids watching the show again. You see why I keep saying the attempts to make a Sentai show more comical instead of better written backfire?
Its fumes are bad, however, as it's shown they have the capability to dematerialize matter, shown when Goro fights it and loses his suit. However, this episode then turns into an environmentalism episode, with Mikio and some other kids trying to head off Bara Skunk's ability to turn trash into destructive gas by cleaning up the trash and recycling. However, as this is past the point that all toy environmentalism episodes went to suck, this entirely forgets that Bara Skunk can just eat anything to get the same effect. It does not need to be trash it devours to get this effect, meaning their efforts in thwarting it are entirely pointless.
And that's not even addressing how Barra's skunk could just resupply itself back at Baranoia's moon base on the moon by converting all the wasted scrap we already know Baranoia has lying around into its gas as well. You literally are affecting nothing by doing this, meaning the recycling moral of the story is in its entirety a broken Aesop.
And as works to be consistent with bad Soda episodes this series, it wraps by introducing the auxiliary mecha Tackle Boy, completely out of nowhere with no explanation nor build up to it being a sudden arsenal addition, nor why they'd need to use it to destroy the skunk on the macro scale. The only rationale is it being inexplicably immune to the skunk's atomization gas, which prevents it gaining an advantage on them. Auxiliary mechs like Tackle Boy are, well, pretty rare in the grand scheme, most others converting to an actual weapon to be wielded.
But with that, the worst of the show is behind us. For the most part. As such, next time allow me to discuss Ohranger vs. Kakuranger, before we actually touch on the series endgame.